Yes, you read that correctly. Your girl read 15 books. Oh. Hello, you guys, and welcome back to my channel as usual. So today I have a wrap up for you guys, which is basically everything I read this last month of April. So when I'm filming this today, I think I'll post this today. It's 3rd of May. So, well, yeah, it's kind of hot in here, so I'm gonna turn on the fan, and I really hope you guys don't like hear. I hope it's not too noisy, is what I'm trying to say. All right. Okay, so let's get started. So the first book that I read this month. Okay, so before we start this off, just so you guys know, I have a very strict order for reading my books. So my TBR, I always follow this order like very strictly. So what it is that I read books in the order that I buy them in. I hope that that is very simple and understandable to you guys. So you guys might be wondering, bro, won't you get bored? Like, if you strictly follow the order, maybe you're reading a fantasy book but you want to read a mystery. Maybe you don't want to read like something at that point in time. Maybe you're saving it. Maybe you come across a Christmas kind of book and it's not December or even November, so you're thinking like, oh my god, I don't want to read this at the moment. Won't you have moments like that? So a lot of people have asked me this, including my mom, and some people have been like, oh my god, how can you do this? Like, how can you commit? It's because first of all, I have really bad OCD, so it forces me to do it. And second of all, I only meant the books that I own. So I usually do borrow books from my friends. I borrow books from any library if I can find them, sometimes mostly at my school's library. I can read ebooks, I can read audiobooks, so I can do all of that in any order I wish to. Any book that I want, I can read. But it's only about the books that I physically own. And this has mainly two reasons, I mean three. First of all, my OCD. Second of all, it's because when I was younger, like, maybe my mom would buy, she would go out, she would buy like 3 books. So I didn't really know which one to start, and I didn't have the concept of like, what kind of book do I like, or do I like a book? Like, I would just read, even if I didn't like a book, I would just like read. So I didn't really have like that thought process, like bad book, good book. I didn't really think like that. Any book I liked, that was my thought process. So I didn't really know which one should I read now. So it just kind of eased the process for me. Whatever book I got, I would read it at that moment. Or if my mom gave me like 3 books, I would just read it in the order that she gave me in. She stacked them. She stacked 3 books and she gave it to me. Whatever's standing first, I'll read it. So I basically, that was my thought process. It was just like, it made it easier to pick and choose a book to read. And then the third reason, which is what I'm thinking of now, as not as a grown up, still a teenager, but like older, is that it really helped me to get through my physical TBR, because I watch YouTube and I see so many people who have like 100 plus unread books, 200 plus, some of them 250. I'm not lying. Literally, go on YouTube and search it, and there are people who have had books on the physical TBR for 10 plus years. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be in that category. But the problem here is that so a lot of these books that I have right here, I'm 16 right now, this is 2025, and I will be turning 17. So a lot of these books are from 2022, when I was 13, just turning 14. So because I actually last year in 10th grade, I read almost only books from my school's library and from my friends, because I was changing schools. I changed my school. I'm not going to continue at my old school, so yeah, I'm going to be changing school. So I wanted to like make sure like I exploited my school's library as much as I could. Of course, I gave back the books, but because I didn't know what kind of library I would have in my new school. Of course, it was a big like thing for me. Like, I had to go to a school with a good library, but still, of course, like it wouldn't have the exact same books. So there will be books that my school had, which my new school wouldn't have. So I wanted to just like exploit it, and also my friends as well. I read as many books as I could. So of course, my physical TBR, these books, I own them, so they would stay with me forever. I could read it whenever. So that was my thought process. I would still say I don't really regret it. And I also read like mostly books from my library or friends in 8th grade and 9th grade as well. So 8th grade was when I got back into reading, and immediately I started reading other books. So yeah, my physical TBR has been sitting stagnant. So I started reading because 2022 8th grade was when I got back into reading. Yeah, so I've started reading literally my physical TBR from that time. These are all from 2022. Literally all of them, all of the books that I have here are from 2022. So in May, I'm gonna read books from 2023 and 24 and so on. Yeah, so that's why a lot of the books in my TBR are kind of like for younger readers. Like they're books that you would find for in a 12 to 14-year-old's library or like bookcase, whatever, bookshelf, whatever, rather than somebody of my age, which is 16. But since I have like that order in mind, I had to read these books, of course. And I wouldn't say I hated them, but I would just say I would have definitely enjoyed them a lot more if I were younger. Yeah. So if you're wondering why is she reading like such childish books, that's honestly the reason. Yeah, and also I do like kids books. I'm just saying. This book that I read this month, a dog is barking in the background. It's my neighbor's dog, so please excuse that. The first book is The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. So, of course, this is a very famous book. It's like a classic, so I don't really have to explain this much. It's basically the diary of a girl called Anne Frank. She used to she didn't survive the Holocaust. She used to live during the time of the Second World War. Basically, she died during that time, which is unfortunate. But her dad, no, somebody found the diary, and her dad decided to have it published to like basically immortalize his daughter's like life and also present how terrible the times were at that time living there, at that time and stuff. As a Jewish person, yeah. So this book, I'm not gonna lie, I love this book, and I was really not expecting it to be so relatable. As in, not the things that she's like, surviving, or the things that she's braving through, but what I mean is like the life of a like young teenage girl in the early 1940s. So like from 1942 to like 1943, 44, I don't know. That is so relatable to how it is now. Like it's nearly it's nearly a century later, and still like the things that she describes and stuff, like as an early teenager, she's gonna feel like mood swings and stuff, and she's gonna feel like, distant from her family, like nobody understands her. She's gonna feel like even though she has a lot of friends, she feels lonely, and like the desire for a companion. Like all these things are so relatable even in today's like times. Well, yeah. So of course, as I'm 16 years old, by the way, and I think Anne Frank died when she was 16, and this diary is basically when she was 13 to 15 years old. She couldn't take the diary with her when she was captured or whatever. She obviously, you can read this, and I'm thinking like she's kind of immature when I read this. Like that's what I'm thinking. Of course, as a 13-year-old, I might have felt similarly. I don't remember, but well, yeah. And also, there's a lot of things that are like, I wouldn't say inappropriate. I mean, it is kind of inappropriate, but yeah. I didn't really think like, I feel like a lot of people are gonna be like, oh my God, the 1900s, like girls were so dainty, like they didn't know about those things. Bro, literally read this book. Like everybody knew about everything, just like in today's age, but there's practiced in a different way, I guess. This book, you guys, I'm gonna just tell you this, it's gonna be very much relatable. If you guys are expecting like some old-timey writing and stuff, no, it's literally how it is in today's day and age, and it's very easy. Like I'm not gonna say like of course in the 1900s we spoke the same English as we do today, but yeah, I just feel like going into this, I obviously knew I was gonna understand everything because it's not a huge time gap, but I did think that maybe she was thinking in a different way as compared to teenagers of today. I didn't expect her to like literally feel the same hormones and stuff that we do. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, of course, also, I feel like so many people recommend this to like young kids, bro. There must be a censored version of this somewhere, but I'm not gonna recommend this to a girl who's like 8, 9 years old. Literally, only read this if you're 13 plus. Like literally Anne Frank's age. I would say 13 to like 18 is the age to read this book, because imagine like 11 or 12-year-old reads this and she does exactly what Anne Frank did. Oh my God, no, literally don't. Like it's just justifying whatever things Anne Frank went through. Like, bro, you're a teenager, you will do these things, you will make mistakes, you will be stupid, but just don't get influenced by a book is all what I'm saying. If you can like prevent it, then at least try. Yeah. So I would say this is definitely not a kid's book, but yeah, it's very relatable. That's all I gotta say, honestly. And I love this book. So I think I started this like at the end of April, maybe 31st. No, 31st I was out, so I didn't read on 31st. I mean maybe I started it on April 30th, just after I finished reading Twisted Hate. The next book that I read was by Jacqueline Wilson, which, if you guys don't know, she used to be like my favorite author when I was a kid, like when I was in 5th grade, 4th grade maybe. She was my favorite author, and I still read some of her books because I haven't finished reading all of her books, obviously. So I'm still going through her backlist, like not exactly trying to read all of them, but if I come across a Jacqueline Wilson book, I am going to read it. And I also have still a bunch of her books that I have not read, okay? This one is called Kiss, and it's by Jacqueline Wilson. So this book is basically, do you guys want to know what this is about? This is one of the books that's like meant for, I wouldn't say older readers, but mostly her books are meant for like 10 to 12-year-old girls, but I would say this one is maybe for 13 or so. This book, you guys, is literally about this girl, okay? She's been like best friends with a guy from when she was like a kid, childhood best friends. She likes him a lot and they joke about getting married and all that stuff. And one day she realizes he's gay. And oh my god, I read this when I was like, I read this book at a very, very like at the right time of my life. Literally, like I don't know, this was like an experience. That's what this book was. This was an experience, you know. Yeah, so if you have had any similar experience, you liked a guy and he turned out to be gay, definitely read this book. I would definitely recommend, especially if you're still heartbroken over that. Definitely read this. But yeah, I definitely like this book. I would say I was not expecting like a good ending, but of course it's not like the best like happily ever after, but it's kind of a bittersweet ending still. But you know, yeah, Jacqueline Wilson, like you can never really know what kind of ending you're gonna get. Is it like a happily ever after, like a Disney ending, or is it like everything's in shatters? You can never really tell, you know. But she does attempt to repair some stuff at the end of her book always, and this one was no different. I would say I like this book. It was not like a 5-star, but I would say I like this book, especially I think I should have read it at that point in my life, you know. Yeah, so that's book number 2. And also I read this book in like 1 or 2 days. I think 2 days, yeah. Next one is Buried Alive, also by Jacqueline Wilson. It's a very short book. It's like 150 pages or something, and I read this in about a day. As in, like, let's say I started it on 11 a.m. one day, I would finish it 11 a.m. the next day. So not in one day, but in 24 hours is what I'm saying. You know, the date might be different. So yeah, this one is basically about this boy and his best friend called Biscuits who go on a vacation. I don't even remember his name. Tim, yeah. They go on a vacation, they go on a holiday, and this is definitely meant for younger readers, I can tell. It's meant for like 8 to 10-year-olds, and some of Jacqueline Wilson's books are meant for guys. This is definitely one of them, but I don't think I enjoyed this as much, and it's not because it's meant for guys, it's mostly because it's too childish for me, I would say. But still, it's a Jacqueline Wilson book, so I read it, but it's kind of too childish. Like, I'm definitely over the age for these kinds of books. I think I should read like some of her books that are meant for older readers, or maybe have like darker subject matter. Like, this was just fun. Literally shits and giggles, literally. Next one. Okay, well, yeah, book number 3, done. Now, 4th book that I read this month was also read in about a day. It's Dates, Double Dates, and Big Big Trouble by Ali's World. So this book, it's written by Kieran McCombie. This book, it's part of a series. It's called the Ali's World series, and I like the series because I read this first book of the series when I was in 5th grade. Okay, yeah. So well, I don't know. It was actually like around lockdown time. It could be just before lockdown. It could be just after lockdown started. So basically, during that time, like the early lockdown days, was when I read the first book. And for some reason, I was growing out of love with reading. So I was not like, I was falling out of love with reading is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, so I didn't really enjoy it as much, but of course it's kind of funny. It's just like a fun read. Like, I loved it, like, for what it was. I wouldn't say it's a serious read. Again, this was like 200 pages, and yeah, I definitely read this in a day. Again, as I said, like 10 a.m. one day, 10 a.m. the next day, done. So I finished reading that book. It's basically about a girl called Ali. That's what the series is about, and it's basically dealing with her life, like different stages of her life. And in this book, she suspects that her dad is having an affair with another woman who is not her mom. Okay, read to find out the ending. This is literally just a fun book. You can just read it like in one sitting, maybe 2 sittings. Yeah. Next one is My Great Success and Other Failures by Catherine Wilkins. Okay, this is also quite short. It's 190 or something pages, and I really liked it. This kind of deals with like becoming famous when you're younger, all the problems that you deal with, and all that stuff. I would say it's definitely still like a fun, like shits and giggles, like young, you know, like what do you say, tween book. But at the same time, even if it's like YA middle grade kind of book, it does deal with something kind of more serious, you know. Yeah. And I would say this. Look at this cover; it's kind of cool. But yeah, I love this book as well. Again, for what it was just a fun time, and I was okay with that. Again, I read this like so fast. Also because it has like illustrations and the font is not small. It's like kind of, I wouldn't say it's big, but it's like bigger than average. And so I think I definitely read like 2 pages of this book in a minute. So it was very fast. I wouldn't say 2 pages. Basically, for reading one page, you usually take about a minute or so, and this one, for one page, I took less than a minute. That's all what I'm trying to say. Next book I read was Daddy Long Legs, and oh my gosh, you guys, this is written by Gene Webster, and oh, the way I loved this book. I would recommend it to anybody, literally anyone, especially young girls. Like, not young girls, I mean, like, teen girls or early teens, or maybe even, 12 years old. It's okay. I loved this book. Oh, that's a wasp, but no way. I love this book, you guys. It was so good. It's kind of like a classic because it was written, let me check when it was written. I think it was written in the 1900s, like early 1900s, like 1900, 1900s, literally. Well, yeah, I literally love this book. Let me just tell you guys what it's about quickly. So it's about a girl called Jerusha. She calls herself Judy because she doesn't like the name Jerusha. She thinks it's old-fashioned. Anyway, that's not the thing. So she, oh my god. So she's an orphan, yeah. So she is staying at an orphanage. I forgot the name, but yeah. She is about 18 years old. She was 17, about to turn 18. So she's nearly an adult, and usually the kids at the orphanage leave after they're 16. So she's basically too old, and she has to work for her stay. So she has to help take care of the younger kids, and she also has to, like, what do you say, like, do chores. I forgot what it was exactly, but she had to work, and she hated her life. She thought it was miserable, dreary. She just wanted out. And one day, this, the matron, the warden of the, like, orphanage, who also she hates. So yeah, so the warden called her into the office, and as she's going there, she sees like this dude, like this tall guy with long legs, and she thinks, oh my god, he's so tall, like in a funny way, because he's like so tall. And then she goes in. The warden says, a guy, one of our trustees, or like the people who fund the orphanage, he wants to fund your education, and he wants to send you to college to become a writer. So he doesn't want to be known, so he prefers to remain anonymous, so you won't know his name, but you have to write him a letter every month. So basically the reason is because he thinks that letter writing is the best way to like improve your writing skills, and of course he wants her to become a writer, so that's why he wants her to write a letter monthly. And she basically just has to describe her life, her college life, her studies, her personal life, all that stuff. Whatever she wants to write, she can write about it in a letter monthly, okay? So, well, yeah, she does it. And so she addresses the letters to Daddy Long Legs, because that's what she calls him. And this is basically about her life, and about Daddy Long Legs as well. It's, oh my god, I feel like a lot of people might think this is not inappropriate. There's nothing inappropriate in this book, by the way. It's child friendly, literally. I wouldn't say it's inappropriate, more like problematic or controversial. There is something in this book that you might think is problematic. I'm not going to reveal it because it's a spoiler, but I personally didn't think it was, especially with the like time period. It's a product of its time. It's truly a product of its ages, and so I didn't think too much of it. I actually loved it. I showed my mom, like I told her what this is about. She loved it as well. Yeah, definitely, if you guys want like a good classic to start with, read this one. Next one is The Painter of Signs by R.K. Narayan. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what I was expecting when I read this book, but it was not what I got, bro. I thought it was a romance, like, and that was it. This thing is so problematic, I swear. But for some strange reason, I loved it. But it was not like problematic, I loved it, like Magnolia Parks or something like a Haunting Adelaide. Actually, it kind of is. It's more like Colleen Hoover, literally fans of Colleen Hoover. What do you have to say for yourself? Like, I have never read a Colleen Hoover book, but I kind of know what it's about. Like, I know there's like abuse in it, and things like that, and it's like glorified. And so literally, how do Colleen Hoover fans defend themselves? I need to know, because that's what I felt after reading this book. Like, there's literally the most problematic scene I've probably read in a book, and that's because I haven't read a lot of like BookTok popular books yet, but there was literally a problematic scene in the book. And guess what? The ending was so good. The ending was literally the best part of this book, because it was the most, what do you say, was really appropriate, this was how it's supposed to end, literally. Yeah, so I love this book, especially for the ending. I think that I was definitely expecting a different path, but I definitely loved this book. Again, I would say it had its own share of problematic moments and didn't like that. Next book I read, I don't have it with me. It was a Malayalam book, which is my, what do you say? Well, my first language, my mother tongue language is Malayalam. So it was called Vilayathu Buddha, and it was written by G.R. Indugovan. So yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about it because a lot of my viewers won't even know what it's about. But basically, it's about a guy who's like walking home one day and he falls into literally shit, like human poo. He falls into it, and everybody, like all the villagers, see it because he can't climb. Basically, it's like a pit, you know, it's like a septic tank, and he falls into this like shithole, and he can't climb back up because it's really deep. Yeah, so he has to like scream for help, and all the villagers see him there, and he thinks like after that everybody basically calls him shit, and he is really like, what do you say, angry, and he wants to not take revenge on anybody, but he wants to clear that name for good. So well, yeah, so he decides to plant a sandalwood tree, which is like really, you know, sandalwood is known for its good scent. So he decided to plant that, and when he dies, he wants to, like, you know, here we like burn the bodies of the dead, and we put wood under them and over them. Basically, we encase them in wood and we burn them, and the wood also burns. And so he wants to die, and no, not he wants to die, but when he does die, when he passes away, he wants the sandalwood to be cut, and he wants to be like burnt in the sandalwood so that he will have a good scent and people will think, oh, he's not shit, at least when he dies. But someone else also has their eyes, one of his former students also has their eyes on the sandalwood. So it's basically a battle between them. I like this book, honestly. It was so outlandish, like the, what do you say, the theme is like so weird, but it was kind of good. And I was really thinking like, how is this gonna end, you know? And I read it in one sitting, literally. It's like only like 120 pages long. I don't usually read books in Malayalam, so it was kind of, you know, it's a little bit like, it takes more time for me to read Malayalam, you know, like per page or per book, whatever, as compared to English, because I read more English books. But of course I understood, I understood it. It's my, literally my mother tongue. But yeah, I have friends who don't understand Malayalam. It's kind of crazy. Like they understand, but like they can't read it, you know. So they don't really know how to read it. Anyways, yeah, that's a story for another day. But yeah, that was about the book. Now, I read that very quickly, and then I moved on to Wings of Fire, an autobiography by APJ Abdul Kalam with Arun Tiwari. This guy was like, also I have like a reading vlog where I'm reading these two books, Vilayathu Buddha and this one. But yeah, he was an Indian president, and he was also like a rocket engineer scientist before that. And yeah, so it's basically about his life. I think it ends before he became the president actually, so it doesn't mention anything about his politics or nothing like that. But yeah, it's mostly about his like science career. I'm not really into science, but I read this book, and I wouldn't say, so many people told me it's so boring. It's basically like building how to build a rocket instruction manual, and to be honest, it kind of was like, big man, we want to know about your life, not your career. Like if I want to know his career, I will Google him. I want to know his views, which he kind of does expand on his views a little bit. His life, which he only talks about his early years of his life. Like he doesn't mention, he doesn't have a personal life, first of all. Like he doesn't have a personal life. He doesn't have friends. He doesn't have a family. Like he doesn't have a wife or kids. It's just him and science and physics, basically, and rockets, and what do you say, satellites, launch vehicles. That's the only thing he's writing about. So, but of course, one of my friends tried to read this, and she was like, "It's such a chore." Also, she never reads like nonfiction, so this was her first no. So this was her first nonfiction book, and she hated it, and she DNF'd it, and she's not gonna continue it. Well, yeah, I guess it can't be helped. But I tried, and I would say of course I finished this book. But yeah, so I was reading this book when I was reading Vilayathu Buddha. Like it was kind of at the same time. I was like maybe a little bit through this book, and then I just picked up Vilayathu Buddha, finished it one sitting, and then I finished this book as well. So it is 4 parts. It's divided into 5 parts, I think, and I'm pretty sure I also read it in 5 days. No, 4 parts. So I read it in 4 days, like 1 part per day. Of course, it's kind of uneven. Like one part is like 50, one part is 70 pages, one part is like 20 pages. So I kind of divided it into like kind of an equal distribution. So yeah, definitely still though I finished it in 4 days. Yeah. Okay, next book that I read was actually it's called Maid's Dates and Portobello Princesses by forgot her name. Oh my god, Kaylee Hopkins, I think. It's part of the Maid's Date series, and this is it's basically a book series revolving around three friends, and it's Nesta, Lucy, and Isabel, Izzy. So yeah, I really like Nesta. I think she's the character that like I want to be like the most, and I really like her honestly. You know, even looks wise, I really like her. So yeah, I think that I was really hyped for her book to find out how she thinks, and honestly kind of underwhelmed me, but still I love the book because like again I love this book for being what it is. It's literally just a fun time. Yeah, so I've been reading this book for like months now actually, like a couple months, I would say a couple months. I started in like March, and I would just read a couple pages of it every day on my phone. By the way, I found it on like a pirate site where I read ebooks. So I found it there, and I would read like a couple pages per day when I was bored. And well, yeah, that's kind of what I did. Maybe if I was reading a book, I couldn't really get into it, so I wanted to read something else, I would open that and read it because I was always in the mood for something like that, you know, like teen girl joy. That's literally what it is. Yeah, so I read the book, and one day, so I went to my cousin's grandparents' house, and it was a long drive. It was like 4 hours there, and I think we even took longer than 4 hours because there was a traffic jam or something. And so I literally just opened the book, read. I mean, not opened the book, but I opened it on my phone, read. Finished the book. That was it. It's kind of short as well. It's definitely under like 200 pages. Yeah, but I have read the first two books in the series. I do want to continue. It's not like something I'm prioritizing because again, like you can continue it whenever you want, or I could literally consider it done and ended because it's not like a cliffhanger. It's not like a real series. It's kind of like interconnected standalones. Well, yeah. I do want to continue it someday. Maybe if I feel like I'm picking up like a really serious book, not like something boring. I still like it, but it's really serious. So if I want like some break, I'll read a Maid's Dates book. Next one that I read was The Making of Mr. Hyde's Daughter Becoming British by Yasmin Hyde. So this book is about a brown guy in the 1970s or 80s in the United Kingdom. So he's from India, then he went to Pakistan after the partition of India. If you guys don't know what that is, then it's okay. He went to the United Kingdom and he married, of course, still a Pakistani woman he married, and then he had some kids. Of course, they're gonna be brown, not like skin wise, but they are actually like racially they are brown. But he wanted them to be like white people, basically. So culture, speak English, eat this, like don't eat spicy food, blah blah blah. Yeah, and basically it's also about her like navigating life in Britain. Of course, I know things like times have changed. Like reading this now, I know there's like a lot more diversity in the United Kingdom. Honestly, I feel like so many Indians are in UK right now. Like it's crazy. But well, yeah, I read this and I was like, it's really crazy how far we've come. But I love this book because it's so relatable. Of course, I do not live in United Kingdom. I'm not Pakistani, I'm an Indian, but still I'm brown, and I can definitely tell this is basically how people's minds work here as well. You speak English, oh my god, let me literally like kiss your ass just because you speak English, bro. It's just a language. You could speak anything else and it would be fine. Actually kind of crazy how people think, oh, you speak English, oh my god, you're like more civilized, you're more educated, whatever. It's just kind of bullshit, bro. It's literally so dumb. But yeah, enough of listening to my rant. But yeah, you speak English because that's your first language. We speak English also because that's your first language. Next book that I read was Chocolates and Flowers by Kaylee Cassidy. So Kaylee Cassidy is another author that I really liked around the time that I was warming up to Jacqueline Wilson. So I think I started liking Jacqueline Wilson in 4th grade, and I liked Kaylee Cassidy in 5th grade, okay? So well, yeah, it was Kaylee Cassidy writes books for like 12 plus kids, so it's kind of a little bit aged up. But yeah, I would definitely say I like Jacqueline Wilson more. She has like more plots, more substance, and Kaylee Cassidy's books kind of feel repetitive, but I also really like them at the same time. literally teen girl joy. That's what her books are. So I had read all her like standalones, yeah. And after I had finished all her standalones, I decided to start on the Chocolate Box Girl series. And there's 6 books originally in the series, and I finished all of them. And there were also six. There are six like what do you say novellas, which are focusing on side characters. And I had read the first book in that like in the in the novellas, you know. So the novellas actually take place in between the original series, you know. So the spin-off novellas take place between the original series, but I read the first one in the actual order, but the rest of them I decided to read them out of order. Like I would read it after I was finished with the whole series, you know. So I started reading the rest of the rest of the five of the six now. So I read the second one, yeah, which is called Chocolates and Flowers. And yeah, so that book focuses on Alfie, who's a character in the book series. I read that book and it was great. I would say definitely all these books are like under 100 pages. They were around like 50 to 60 pages, all of them. So you could get done with them in about an hour or less, even. It depends on your reading speed. But I feel like I definitely finished it in under an hour. But wait. Chocolates and Flowers, I think I read around 2 days. Like, I took a break and I read it in 2 days. So it was not a one sitting book, but I read this when I was moving, yeah. So I finished reading this book like just the day before we actually moved, but then we had to shift stuff, and after we had finished shifting, I read the book, yeah. So we were still unpacking stuff, and I'm at my new house right now, and we're still unpacking stuff. Read the book then. It was nice, it was fun, it was cute. I don't really have much to say because it's such a short novella, but I loved it. Last one is no, it's not the last one. This is book number 13. It's Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This one put me in a reading slump. Oh my god. But I loved it though. So wait, let me actually elaborate. I love this book. I actually really enjoyed this book because it was like it's so good, but at the same time this writing is so old-timey and there were so many words I didn't really understand, like very old words that are outdated, out of use. So I had to Google them, of course, but that's not even the reason why I was in a slump. It's not the writing style or whatever. It was because a lot of the stuff in this book just didn't like I was trying to grasp and make sense of it all because I couldn't understand what path the story was taking. I just couldn't understand, but after a while I understood where this was going, what is happening in the storyline, and I was engrossed in it, and then I read everything else. Yeah, so I finished reading like 200 pages of this on the 30th because I really wanted to finish reading 15 books this month, you guys. And of course, since I have an order for reading, in my TBR, I had 2 more books left when I finished this one. But yeah, I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, so I finished like 120 pages in the last day, and I was done with the book, and I really loved it. I would say definitely you guys have to keep in mind this has some dysfunctional ass people. You guys should not romanticize it, but it's kind of entertaining the same way like a soap opera is kind of entertaining, like an Indian serial or soap opera, literally an Indian soap, but British. British, make it English. That is just what this is, okay? Yeah, but it was entertaining. I really like, especially the ending, or like what do you say, like the end product, like the next generation. I really liked how it played out. It was really sweet, loving, and kind. It's not like the first generation of this book, but well, yeah, I love this book, and I have read her sister's book, which is Jane Eyre. I don't remember it being this dysfunctional. I guess it kind of just shows how different the sisters are. But yeah, I don't have too much to say about this, even though it's a long book and stuff. I don't have a lot to say. Definitely liked it. It's been a while since I read a classic. No, it was not, because I just read Daddy Long Legs. But Daddy Long Legs is kind of like still written in a kind of contemporary style. Even though it's written in the form of letters, it's still like kind of the like language and stuff you can still really understand, but this is so distinct because it was written in the 1800s, and the story partly takes place in the 1700s as well. So yeah, it was very different. The customs and all that stuff was really different. The traditions were different, but yeah, so that was not the last book, obviously, so I had to reach my 15 books goal. Yeah, so since like after we had moved, I just read Chocolates and Flowers, and for like 4 or 5 days I just didn't read anything, and then I picked up Wuthering Heights. So yeah, and again I was in a slump. So, and not only a slump, but I had a lot to do like every single day. I had like work to do, and unpacking stuff, and yeah. So well, you can't really like blame me for it. But after I finished this one, I had 2 hours left. I finished this literally around like 10 o'clock. After 10 o'clock, actually, I finished Wuthering Heights. So I had only about exactly 2 hours left. And I thought, you know what? Let's finish the Chocolate Box Girls. So I read the next one, which is called Hopes and Dreams, which is the story of Jodie, a side character. Loved that book. Again, really short, around 60 pages, so they have to like pack in everything. So it was really short. It was kind of good, sweet. Then I also read Moon and Stars. Again, I read this Finch's story, and I read it at a time when it was like very, very, very right for me to read the book at that time, because it shows you that not everything has a happily ever after. And yeah, well, yeah. But it still kind of ended happily. Like, it was not like a tear jerking, like somebody dies, not that kind of ending. But well, yeah, I don't really have too much to say about these short novellas, because it's like literally so short. What do you mean? And a lot of people, I checked the Goodreads for that book, because it's not a happily ever after. So what will people think? It was not the direction that people were expecting, and it's so different from the rest of like the novellas, right? So well, yeah, check the Goodreads, and guess what they're saying? They were being like, oh my god, how could you do this? How could you make this character do this? I like the story. Oh my god, I like this couple. Blah blah blah. Bro, that is kind of life. Not everybody stays with the person they meet when they're 13 or 12. Like, it's life. People grow up, people change. And well, yeah. So I just want to say, for this next month of May, I don't intend on reading 15 books, because I don't intend on reading like many short books like these ones. The next few books in my TBR, as I have the order already set, they're all kind of big books, bigger ones. So I don't think I'll be able to read all these. But well, yeah. Maybe I will post a TBR video of May. It really depends. We'll see. Peace out. Bye. And I will post a video soon. Maybe I'll post a TBR. Let's see.